This podcast was recorded in the morning of August 27th, 2022. Since then, Matt Ariza has been released from the Buffalo Bills. Help is available. National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-4673.
On today's episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, Justus will be joining me as we're talking about the Matt Ariza situation that's surrounding the Buffalo Bills community and the team in general. And then we're going to wrap up about talking about the Bills' preseason finale against the Carolina Panthers.
You're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Andrew Chang and Justin Godwin.
Welcome in, everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show here on the Buffalo FAMBase network. You can find me on Twitter by searching up Two Changs. Our co-host, the one who's been taking over for some time now, Justin, is actually on his honeymoon. He's out in Hawaii sipping on coconuts and floating in the sea or whatever. But I have someone better, if not greater, than Justin. No offense, Justin. Our guy, Justus General Radford, the CEO, as I like to call him. He's here on this episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast. Justus, thanks so much for being on the episode. How you doing today?
Of course, man. It's always dope to work with you guys. Wandering Buffalo, you're some of my favorite podcasters in the community, so it's awesome to have you guys on the team. So I'm excited to be here. And Justin, you're great. Don't let them fool you. You're great, Justin. Okay.
Yeah. Justin has been fantastic. I've been so slammed with like life and having like 3 jobs at the moment just because of like overlap that he's just really taken on the work of the podcast. So shout out to Justin again. Congrats on getting married. Awesome.
Congrats, bro. Absolutely.
Yeah. Shout out to you too, Leanne. I didn't forget about you. That's his wife. Anyways, so we're going to just talk quickly about this whole Matt Ariza situation. Give, kind of just broadcast, pun intended, our opinions about this situation. And I'm just going to go off this right now, or I'm going to just kick this thing off. I feel for Bills Mafia, right? It is super uncomfortable to see how this situation kind of came out, the news and everything, just from start to finish and start to like right now, it's just not great. And, outsiders who aren't Bills fans probably are giving us a lot of flack, and I understand like how they feel. And personally, I want him cut. It's nothing. It's just bad, right? It's just like we got to wash our hands of the situation. It's not good. You remember when the Giants Justus had that kicker Rosas, I think, who,
yep.
Yeah, with the whole domestic violence thing.
That was bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there were those just allegations before?
No. Well,
that was.
I don't know. I think there were allegations, but the allegations were absolutely horrific. And it was like, you kind of have to, it was talking about like he was beating his wife and stuff like that. So
yeah. And I'm not saying like this is the more evil than the other person, but I
they're comparable. Honestly.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, if they cut for this, then shouldn't we cut for that? That's kind of like the Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared. Shouldn't that equal C squared?
Right,
For
sure.
I don't really know how you feel about this situation. I know you're more involved and have a better understanding of the temperature of Bills community through Twitter. So I don't know if you can bring some light on how the community is feeling.
Well, I mean, so the community is a little I won't even say divided, because it's not. There's like maybe a sprinkle of people that are saying like, oh, let's give them the benefit of the doubt or whatever the case may be. But for me personally, I am completely aware that because of people's status, football player, money, all that stuff, that sometimes people try to take advantage of them and get one over on them. Mm-hmm. If you read the details in this story, that goes completely
horrific,
out of your mind. Like, there's I wasn't there. I'm not gonna pretend I know what happened,
Mhm.
but I don't like. You need to figure this out before you should be able to play football again, right?
Oh yeah.
Because if you're as innocent as you claim, or whatever the case may be, then 1-2 years off of football isn't gonna hurt you, right?
Right.
You figure this out, but you need to be innocent before I'm ever gonna root for you. Like
Oh
hearing
yeah.
about something like that, it like and I'm with you. Like cut them. There's no reason that we should even be in this situation,
Mhm.
especially over a rookie punter. Like I don't care how good you are.
Mhm.
This just doesn't sit well with me. I do appreciate the fact that he didn't have on any Bills apparel in yesterday's game.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I said that on Twitter. I was saying that people were like, do you think they're going to have him punting tonight? I was like, completely honest, I don't think he should play. I don't think he should be dressed. I don't think he should wear anything
Mm.
of Bills relation. And if he wants to watch the game, he should watch it from the stands, to be completely honest. But
Mhm.
um, I do look forward to hearing more about the situation, and I pray to God that this is not true. I pray to
Yeah.
God that he's innocent, and not just because I want to have this punter on my team. I pray to God that he's innocent because nobody deserves to go through that. Like
Right.
that's
And
awful.
yes, yes. And I completely agree with you, Justice. I'm thinking about this not only from his perspective, because, well, let's be honest, like, he's a young football player who's, if he makes his team in general, he's an instant millionaire,
Yeah.
even as a kicker, right?
Yep.
But I'm thinking about this from the victim perspective, and just you assume that everything is true. Like this is terrible, right? You just see your the violator just kind of like go on in life, and then you're just kind of like there,
Yeah.
just
You have to
dealing
live with
with
that forever.
yeah. So I completely agree, and to my understanding, it's like, okay, the NFL can't do anything about it. They can't intervene whatsoever, simply because this happened before he was drafted, and the Bills didn't know any of this when they drafted him. This came out, what?
A
It's
couple
Saturday.
months ago. Well, it came up to the public
Yeah.
Saturday. Apparently, the Bills had information on it a couple months ago, but for what
Okay.
from I don't obviously have all the answers. I'm not Brandon Beane or Sean McDermott, but
Hmm.
from my understanding, they only had certain pieces of it,
Yes.
and
Yes. Thank you.
so I assume that is from the perspective of Ariza and his attorneys. And then
Hmm.
when you hear the other side of things,
You're like, what the hell?
right?
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because this brings me into the Sean McDermott post-game presser. He lays it out there, right off the bat. He's like, we're very disturbed about everything. Like we just want to find the truth, and he is just putting it out there, just saying we want to find the truth. And he said specifically, and I watched this post-game interview very, very late because I had company over. And I wrote this down in like chicken scratch, because like I knew I wanted to say this, and that McDermott learned more about the situation, and he said this. He learned more when the news broke uh, out to the public about Ariza's situation, and he said, like, I didn't know that side or this side. He didn't allude to exactly what he didn't know, but you could tell that it was, a good nugget of information
Right.
that he was kind of taken back. And obviously that played a role into him not playing and everything. And the whole situation's a mess. And yeah, like I said, the NFL can't do anything in terms of suspension, but the Bills organization can intervene, such as suspending Ariza or cutting him. So I promise you that most, if not all, Bills Mafia is clamoring to cut this young man from the team, and rightfully so. I've seen people try to draw parallels with this situation and the Deshaun Watson thing, and I see where you're coming from, but it's not the same. It's not. So I'm just gonna put that out there, and I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but to me, the situations are not the same, because we didn't specifically acquire him knowing that information.
Right, exactly.
So
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I would give Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott the benefit of the doubt, only
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, we've seen his representation post things saying that he wasn't there that night. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming from the perspective or thinking from the perspective of a Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane, and this player and his representation are telling me, oh, there's a little situation, but he wasn't there that night. We have proof he wasn't there, whatever. And you're hearing things that you wanted. They're telling you things you want to hear. And you're like, oh, okay, fine. All right. I'll take a chance on him. And then you hear the other side. And I think that is where the whole disturbance, and Brandon Beane's, I'm sorry, and Sean McDermott's voice comes from.
Mm-hmm.
How uncomfortable and how emotional he was in the press conference. I think it comes from that, because I don't think that those details were made privy to them before. And you read all that out loud, and this kid who you've been spending the last few months with, they are literally in training camp packed together, so you get to know people pretty intimately.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid that you've grown to care for, who you've now made the starter of your team, and then you find out that he's potentially a predator, and that's gotta be, I can't imagine, like somebody who you believe in, and they could have potentially done something like this. It has to be rough. So I really feel more bad for those guys. I don't feel bad for Matt Ariza until there's a reason to feel bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think he should have been cut as soon as that came out. I understand that they want to at least try to stick behind their guys, and it's commendable to a degree. But I just don't think that this specific situation is worth it when you combine, even from a football perspective, and I'm sorry, this would be my last point, even from a football perspective, a rookie punter is not worth this situation.
Yeah.
So
no. Yeah, it's not to like downplay the severity of the situation, but we're talking about a punter here. Like right? Like Matt Barkley kicked a 55-yard punt. I mean, granted, he knuckleballed it, but if you can get a third-string quarterback to fill in and do that,
it did the job. Yeah, you got the number one defense. You don't need a crazy punter.
We ain't punting.
And we don't punt often. Exactly. Right.
Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Stick around, and then when we come back, Justus and I will talk about the Bills' preseason finale. Stick around.
Hey, this is Bills Vader. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. Justus and I are going to wrap up this episode by talking about the Bills' preseason finale against the Carolina Panthers here. We got shut out, a score of 21-0. Definitely not the most impressive game by the Bills. We trot out the second and third team against their starters, and I think Sam Darnold, like their third-string quarterback, when did he come in? Like the third or something like that, or like almost at the tail end of the second. Yeah, he did get injured, and then they threw in their like fourth-string or third-string quarterback. So yeah, it was It was a game to forget for sure. It wasn't like the most impressive things, but definitely some good nuggets of information out there. So I thought that there were some good takeaways, some players that I personally had my eyes on, specifically to look out for when this game was unraveling. But before we get into that, Justus, how did you feel about this game? What are some key takeaways that you got from it, and what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I only got to see like glimpses of it, a couple pieces because I was at a wedding. But I'm gonna be completely honest. I really do think the whole Matt Ariza thing was like a dark cloud over the team.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think we could have spanked the Panthers starters, if I'm being completely honest. I think our backups could have spanked their starters, and yeah, so that sucked. Also, Boogie Basham wearing number 55. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah, dude. I looked at it. I was like, who is? I was like, whoa. And then he jumped off sides.
Yeah.
He had to jump off sides on like a third and whatever. And I was like, come on, dude.
Unless you're going to channel the energy of Jerry Hughes, I don't like that. So that is one thing that I very much dislike. Raheem Blackshear, that he's
Yeah.
a player. I really like Isaiah Hodgins.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm not even answering the question that you
No,
asked.
no, you're good. You're good. You keep rolling. I was like, I was gonna go like by position group, and we'll just talk about it. But I like shooting from the hip.
Yeah,
So
that's
keep it
exactly
keep it going.
same. Yeah. I feel as though this game was kind of just like they were just like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they weren't really putting their best foot forward.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was a lot of surrounding circumstances. There was not a ton of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like somebody punching you right in the stomach before you go into a boxing match, right? Knocking all
Right.
the air out of you.
Oh.
Um, and so I was really disappointed when I remembered that there's a week off between preseason and the regular season week one.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm happy. I'm kind of glad that we get a week to
Yeah.
recuperate and kind of come together and get our minds right. Um,
We play the
and
Rams like week
yeah,
one. We need
Super
to
Bowl
get our head
champions.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. I'm gonna just start with like the quarterbacks. I know you mentioned some other players, but first off, Matt Barkley, punter. Man, that guy.
I'll
Yeah, I
take
know.
it. You get a
Yeah,
roster spot too. I'll take
yeah,
it.
yeah. You kind of killed two birds with one stone. Backup quarterback and backup punter, and there you go. I mean, worst things could happen. And it's funny because like he wasn't planning on punting, if I'm not mistaken. Like the Bills just kind of walked up to him like before the game, was like, "Hey, can you punt?" And he was like, sure, why not?" And he did a very admirable job for just a somewhat athletic white dude. So, so I'll give it to him. Case Keenum, man, he did what he could, and same thing with Matt Barkley. The line that was put in front of him, I don't even know how they didn't get obliterated the entire time. Just because it was filled with some like second, third stringers. I mean, the second string isn't that bad, but like the third string, when they got put in, it was kind of rough against like the Carolina starters and second stringers. I did notice that this is the funniest. I thought this was so funny. What's his name? Steve Tasker. Steve Tasker struggled on the mic last night, but that's okay. He's allowed to struggle on the mic. But he was saying it was like one of those timely things that happens on Sunday night. Go like, oh, he hasn't missed a field goal, and then missed a field goal, or he's doing really good, interception, stuff like that. They talk about Bobby Hart, like he's been refocused. He's been doing real good. They traded away Cody Ford, and he's got his mind right. And then the Panthers run a stunt. Spencer Brown picks his man up, and then Bobby Hart lets this guy just run right by him and just sack Case Keenum straight in the face. I'm like, Jesus, like,
Jeez, they are not making Steve look good.
I know. It was just one of those timely things that I thought was funny, but I thought the offensive line for what was put it together, they don't have a whole lot of continuity, right? Because you'll never trot out just the third team and just the second team. You just want to plug and play when you have to with like the lower tier, your reserves. And I thought they did very well considering that. And I thought the quarterbacks did as good as they could with the weapons and the line they have in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and especially when you consider it's the preseason. I feel like everything went against the Bills tonight. It was like
Oh yeah.
starters versus second stringers and third stringers. The extra circumstances. You were away. So
The
you don't
lightning
have the
delay.
energy. Yeah, it was everything really. This was just like uh, a really really bad night. It was like a perfect storm of negativity for the Buffalo Bills, and I'd much
Yeah.
rather have that happen in the third preseason game than just about any other game in the year.
Yeah.
So I'm not too upset.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go out and rewatch the game just so I can see how all the players did, and who will talk about it and write about it and whatnot. But I am excited to see what, because so when I look at this roster, I look at our wide receivers. You got Diggs, Davis, McKenzie, and those are really the only three that I'm like totally sure about, right?
Oh yeah.
Khalil Shakir looks like a guy, and I'd be comfortable.
He's got a
with
spot.
Him. Yeah,
I think he's got a spot.
Crowder, I feel like he's a lot, but I don't know if he should be.
I don't know.
And then you know you got your Kumaro, Hodgins. I'm partial to Hodgins a little bit because I think you know him and Gabriel Davis came in at the same time and they were so close and you know you heard all the great things about them together and Gabriel Davis looks like a potential superstar now. So I'm like, well, maybe you know we can see what we get from Isaiah Hodgins. I feel like we already know what we're gonna get from Kumaro, and that's why I would like to see us take a chance on Hodgins. You know.
Yeah, I think so. You want to swap out Hodgins for Kumaro? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I would rather have Crowder than Kumaro.
Yeah, I can't remember if Hodgins has. I know he's ramped up a lot more special teams this offseason than he did in the past. So that definitely makes him more appealing because I believe Brandon Beane said like, hey, we're always if it's close, we're going to select the guy with more tools in his box, right? It's not just like a one-trick pony who can only play offense. In this specific instance, if we're just talking about Hodgins versus Kumaro, like although he can play offense, you don't want to trot Kumaro out there if you don't have to, right? Like the wide receiver core for the team is so deep. It's like we don't need to put him out there if we don't have to. Now that being said, in most recent years, Hodgins was more of like, hey, yeah, I'm a wide receiver, but he never played special teams. This offseason, yes, he's played more special teams, and he's been doing really good from what I'm hearing and from what I saw last night. He got plugged in for Tanner Gentry when he got hurt, and hope speedy recovery, Tanner. But I don't think he's going to make the team, unfortunately. Depending on how you look at it, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever. But I thought Hodgins did pretty good in his place. He had a crazy catch behind someone's head. He had and like some back-to-back ones. I thought he looked pretty good with the time that he could accumulate on the field. But the only reason why he was on the field at that time is because someone got hurt, which tells me like, hey, he was below the pecking order of a Tanner Gentry. And if I wasn't confident in a Tanner Gentry, where does that put Isaiah Hodgins?
Yeah.
Right in their order. So I'm just trying to like use some reasoning in my head. Like, all right, I love Isaiah Hodgins, but he didn't even start the game. Like it was Kumaro out there first, and then Tanner Gentry, then Hodgins. So
you know what? I think.
Yikes.
I think there might be a method to the madness there because, you know, Kumaro is kind of not a name, but people do recognize him from the whole Aaron Rodgers thing where, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if you can sneak him onto the practice squad off waivers. Like people are going to pick him up. I don't know if that's necessarily true with Isaiah Hodgins. I think you could sneak him past waivers and put him back on the practice squad. But
Giants, man, they're
this is true. I totally forgot about. Yeah, that's true.
He's gonna be like, word.
Yeah,
bring him in.
He took all of our old players. All right. So I want to ask you about the running back room. Right.
Yes, I was just about to. Yes.
Yeah.
You and I, man.
So what is your 53-man running back room look like?
Right. So you got Singletary. I think Taiwan Jones obviously makes it. He's just, I mean,
it's interesting that Taiwan was your second running back pick.
Oh, I mean, I'm not.
I love it. I love it
like,
because I think that means you're about to say what I think you're about to say, and if you do, I'm going to be happy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I wasn't doing it in any specific order. I was just like trying to remember everyone in my head, and I was like, all right. So Devin Singletary, he's definitely the lead back, no doubt in my mind. Even though the Bills take the running back by committee approach, I still think he's like their guy. He's the first one to get out there. So him, Taiwan Jones for his special plays ability. He, like Brandon Beane's called him an ace on special teams. I think he's out there. See, now this is where things get a little interesting. James Cook, obviously, he's a second-round pick. You're not going to cut your second-round pick. And then you have so many people battling for the third spot, which, fan favorite Raheem Blackshear, undrafted free agent, he's been looking great. He's been honestly really impressing me. You got Duke Johnson, Zach Moss, and Zach Moss didn't even play in this game. And I think he's going to make this team. So my fourth is going to be Zach Moss. And the reason why I'm saying that, again, is because Sean McDermott said leading into this game, most starters are not going to play in this game. Not saying they view Zach Moss as a starter, but they view him. Yeah, they don't want anything to happen to him. So I think they're preserving him. You saw him and Singletary standing off on the side, just kind of like not in non-pads, just wearing their jersey, just with like earbuds in, kind of like what you and I are doing. I think those are the four that are going to make it. So Blackshear, Duke Johnson, and I don't know if there's another running back. Maybe I think that's it. I think they're going to be cut.
So I get that, and it makes sense for them to not play Zach Moss because he's already made the team. You don't really need to see anything more out of him. You already know he's going to be on the team. Or they might have not played him because they don't want him to get injured.
I knew you were going to go here.
I want to keep Blackshear. I really do. I think he brings something different to the running back room.
He's like a younger Tywan Jones, in my opinion.
So, like, I just feel like
but with more running ability.
Zach Moss, to me, is a little redundant to Devin Singletary. And I think Devin Singletary's better. And then if you ask me who do I want on the field if Devin Singletary's not on the field, it certainly isn't Zach Moss, it's James Cook. Duke Johnson looks pretty good.
Yeah. Duke Johnson, man.
Yeah, he looked really good.
He looked like he had a good game last night, even after coming back from getting hurt.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I just feel like Zach Moss is kind of the odd man out, if that makes sense. I feel like he does a little bit of what everybody else does really, really well, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't really play on special teams, and that's not to say that Devin Singletary doesn't play special teams, but to your point, again, Singletary's the clear better running back, so it's like, I don't know, and you got the draft pick pedigree for Cook. They're good. Tywan Jones, he's making the team. Yeah. There's no way he's not making the team.
It's really between
watch him get cut, and I'd be like, well, there I go. Like,
it's really between Blackshear,
Johnson,
and Moss. Really, are two of those guys are probably going to get cut, but I think they might be able to sneak Blackshear onto the practice squad, and I think they'll probably do that.
That would be the best outcome, in my opinion. Just get Blackshear on the practice squad. Let's move on to the tight ends, because that was an area that I really, really wanted to focus on, specifically OJ Howard, not AJ. Jeez, what am I talking about? OJ Howard and Tommy Sweeney, and who am I forgetting? I know his name. I can see it right now.
Austin Knox, OJ Howard, Tommy Sweeney.
And I'm kind of Quentin Morris. Yes, Quentin Morris.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm looking at those three: the Morris, Sweeney, and Howard.
I've heard a lot of good things about Morris.
Yeah, he looked good, and if I'm being honest, from just that game, the game that they said, if you play well, this could basically get you a roster spot. I really felt like, from a fan perspective, that Morris was popping out a little bit more than anyone else. I didn't feel like, I didn't feel like OJ did anything, personally. And maybe that's just because he didn't pop out to me. I thought Morris did more in general, so I really liked what he did, but I don't have to make this difficult decision. And in terms of finance, the Bills have no fiscal reason to part ways with O.J. Howard unless they can trade him. But I mean,
So for me, the only thing about that is I agree with you. But I think Tommy Sweeney has had a lot of opportunity to show that he can be beneficial to this offense, and he doesn't always take advantage of those opportunities. Just drop some passes, miss a couple blocking assignments, things like that, and then they have to pull him. And I think that was a really big reason as to why they went out and got O.J. Howard, because they didn't necessarily believe Tommy Sweeney could be that TE2. So I think if not for anything else, they might have O.J. Howard on the field to be just more of that veteran presence, just to be a little safety valve for Josh. Hey, you can't see anybody downfield. O.J. Howard, number 8, is right there, 4 yards downfield, and he can get 7-yard gain on his completion, etc. But Morris can do that as well.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more of Morris. I really, if Morris could get like the same opportunities that Tommy Sweeney has gotten in these last 2 years, I feel like he probably would take more advantage of it and probably would be more a net positive for our offense.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I mean, like I said, these are some difficult decisions, and this just shows you how deep this team is. And I feel like, the Bills have gone to the playoffs 4 out of the past 5 years, right? So, like, for me, it's just, I feel like I'm starting to be a broken record when I say, hey, this is what happens when you have a deep team. But,
facts.
This is what happens when you have a deep team. Like, these are difficult decisions. And
good problems to have.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why Brandon B gets paid the big bucks.
Right.
All right, let's quickly transition over to the defense. Defensive line, one person who jumped out, Shaq Lawson, in all the right ways. He looked like vintage Shaq Lawson for the Buffalo Bills. He looked pretty good, and that just shows you that the Bills see him as not a starter, but he played against the Carolina starters, and he was doing good work. So shout out to Shaq Lawson. I thought he was doing pretty good, and they gave him, and he's on a veteran minimum contract too. So that is great return on investments for Brandon Beane. Now, someone who I saw who didn't necessarily pop out, no one else really popped out on the defensive line to me except for Boogie Basham, and I mean that in a slightly bad way. Like, that offsides penalty, and there were just some times where he couldn't track down his man. I thought that Boogie still showed that he needs some time to develop into who he needs to become, and it's not all there yet. And if I'm being honest, I think it's a battle between Shaq Lawson, Boogie Basham for that, not saying that we're going to cut Boogie Basham, but I'm just saying in a pecking order, I think they're battling for the 5th or 6th spot. Who's going to jump ahead, leapfrog the other person on that tier list. And I got to say, just based off that game, Shaq Lawson looked like the part.
Yeah, I was talking to Coach Mookie Hawkins, and during the beginning of training camp, he was talking about how Shaq Lawson was leading the team in sacks. He was the most volatile dog in the entire, he was awesome. And so that doesn't surprise me. And when you also take a look at Shaq Lawson's history, he was with the Buffalo Bills, drafted here from Clemson, having championship pedigree, coming to Buffalo Bills. He was along for the ride of the transition from 17-year embarrassment of a team, of a franchise, of an organization, to now being one of the best run organizations in league history.
I'm very happy that you brought that up, and I'm just going to interrupt real quick. When Sean McDermott came over to the Buffalo Bills, I'm pretty sure, now correct me if I'm wrong, that Shaq Lawson was the only holdover from the Rex Ryan.
Jerry Hughes and Shaq Lawson. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kyle Williams.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? And then everyone else got flipped, basically.
Yeah, literally. Everybody else. Nobody else from that team. So, Shaq Lawson, and then he had the good season, which is where the things started turning for the Bills. That was Josh Allen's second year. People were like, "Oh, the Bills are decent. We'll see what they can do." We ended up going like 10-6, I think.
Yep.
And Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips both had good years.
Yep.
And they both went out and got their money, $30 million and et cetera, et cetera. And,
I get
more
it.
power to you. Right, exactly.
Go get the bag.
At the same time, I don't think they were happy in Miami and Arizona, respectively.
Yeah.
I think that they were just like, Buffalo's home to a degree, and so when they came back, even Mookie, he asked Jordan Phillips, is like, how does it feel to be home? And Jordan was like, you said it, I'm back home,
Yeah.
And so Shaq Lawson is back now, where he had a breakout season, that year. It was 2019, I believe it was.
A couple years ago, we'll say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some time ago.
He had that season where he knows he can do this. He knows he can do it at a high level, right?
Yeah. He seemed so juiced up last night.
Right,
too.
Exactly.
I love that energy that they bring.
I think I think they're both glad to be back in this atmosphere, with this family that they're comfortable with, and the city they're comfortable with, and they may not be making the most money in the world, but I think it does something different for your morale when you're able to play at a high level with people around you who are making you better.
Yeah, they wanted to go to the best situation, and I think they were like, realistically, if you get what's like the veteran minimum, like $1 million something or something. I mean, I don't know, but like,
I don't know at the top of
it's a lot of money. It's a lot of it's game changing money.
A lot for us regular people. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh yeah, they got the veteran minimum. What are they, peasants? Like, bro, like what are you talking about? Like, like that's a lot of money in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to the defensive backs here, and I gotta say, I thought that Kaiir Elam did very good. He had that pass breakup very early on against number 17 of the Panthers, who's a starter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was nice. I thought I didn't see any penalties from him, if I'm not mistaken. I think he did get banged up just slightly because when they panned over to him on the sideline, he was grabbing his like lower quad, but I'd imagine it's like a contusion or like a light bruise, but he's fine. And then Baker Mayfield kind of, accidentally knocked into him, and then Baker tried like apologizing to Kaiir, and he slapped his hand away. He's like, no, get away from me. Get away from me. He's like, I'm going to remember that kind of thing. I like the chip. I like the chip. I thought Christian Benford did very well because I didn't see anything really tossed over his way, so I'm just going to assume coverage was good. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bills Mafia. Drop a comment. We love all the discussions and input, so please feel free to join the discussion at any point, any way, somehow. But I thought he did very, very good. Both cornerbacks in this game. I don't know if you want to comment on any of their performances before we transition to safety, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at Kaiir Elam, I look at Christian Benford, and I think we're going to be okay. I think that Tre'Davious White being out is going to sting a bit, and of course, it's an all-pro cornerback being gone. Then you should be stinging, you should be hurting. But I do think that those guys are going to be able to hold the fort down when you consider that you already have Dane Jackson, who has played at a high level in this league already as a starter.
Oh, yeah. He got thrusted in, too.
Yeah, exactly. Teron Johnson, who plays at a high level consistently already in this league as a starter, the nickel corner. And
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so real quick, only I just want to, I think Christian Benford was a complete not an accident, because I think they did scout and saw that he was, because I saw his tape and I was
his
like,
his IQ is good,
crazy, right?
Yeah,
he's a ball hawk, he's all over the place, and he hits. So I could see that Christian Benford was going to be good. I didn't think it was going to be this good, this quick, but I saw it. But I don't think they expected him to be this good, this quick. I think they were just like, we need a contingency plan for Tre'Davious White for the first maybe 10 weeks. When you factor in that he has to heal from the injury and then get his footing when he comes back, you're still gonna need to ease him into the game. Now you have two studs, two rookie studs who, of course, they're probably gonna need some some adjusting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think once week 2, week 3 comes by and they're entrenched into the league and the game slows down for them a little bit, I think
Yeah,
we're gonna be good to go.
for sure, for sure. And I just forgot to mention Cam Lewis out there. I think he was covering a tight end, or maybe it was Jaquan Johnson. I'm not entirely sure, but I think one of them struggled covering the tight end, and you just see the size difference with Tommy Tremble and when he was guarding him. But like one of them got barrel rolled over, and I think it was Cam Lewis. I think he got hurdled over too. I think he had a rough go today, so I don't foresee him necessarily making the team after that outing, but it is what it is. Let's talk about the safeties here quickly. I thought they did fine for the most part. Yeah, I don't really have too much to say, but I will say this about the defense in general. I felt like they were doing pretty good for the most part against the Carolina starters. I mean, they really did lock them. They did pretty good considering they're second team going against starters. I just mentioned that. But I will say they got caught with some misdirection like, oh, we are going to go all the way this way, make you read to your left, but then we're going to turn back to the right, and they got burned for that a couple times. I will mention that Christian Benford, they went right after him, back-to-back plays to start the game, and he gave up 2 completions. But, it is what it is. He's a rookie linebacker, and after that, I don't really think I saw too much.
Were you talking about Terrell Bernard?
Terrell Bernard. What did I say? Christian Benford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Terrell Bernard. Yeah, back-to-back. Thank you. But after those 2 completions, I don't really think they went after him a little bit, and then he shot up the middle to sack or tackle the running back for a loss after the back-to-back completion. So linebackers, safeties, solid. Nothing great, nothing bad. Got the whole team defense in general kind of got burned by some misdirections.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are young players who aren't expected to be playing up against people who are superstars.
Yes.
Let me not say superstars, but starters in this league. They're not quite there yet, so I don't hold too much weight to it. But I will say, I'm very impressed by DeMar
Encouraged.
Hamlin. Yes, Jaquan Johnson, Terrell Bernard looks good. Balon Spector also looks good.
Yes, thank you for bringing him up.
Yeah, so I'm really encouraged to with how our back 7 looks and the depth of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really encouraged. I need to see the defensive line in action before I start goo gagaing over them, because I thought that our defensive line was going to be good last year and they weren't. Mm-hmm. So I need to see them put in production before I can take that step. But as far as the back 7, I have supreme confidence in them as well as the depth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I am very encouraged by this defensive front line, but to your point, I need to see it in action, right? We really, really need to see it in action, and this is like what Brandon Beane's like 3rd or 4th year throwing resources, draft picks, all that stuff into this defensive line. Something has to work eventually. So, hey, we'll see what comes, but. Other than that, do you have anything else you want to talk about, Justus, before we get out of here?
I want to say that my heart, my prayers, goes out with all victims of any sexual abuse or anything like that. Period. That is the most horrific act in the world, and it really sucks that us as football fans who we do this stuff because we love it, we have to take times out of our day to contemplate and think about and talk about people who can't compose themselves, and that is really discouraging and it really sucks. But my thoughts and prayers are with anybody who's ever had to deal with anything like that, and I hope that situation gets mended like yesterday as soon as possible.
Yeah, that was very well said, Justus, so thank you, and I appreciate your comment there. I mean, just to kind of build off of it, piggyback on it, if you will, this has been a hard off season for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, we're just talking like the Bills. 13 seconds, right? Like the Bills lost, could have gone all the way, but 13 seconds, and then we get Von Miller, so we're on the rise, and then the tragic thing with like the Tops community happens, and Buffalo's like in shambles,
right.
And then this pops up, and it's just like we were on the rise, now we're just kind of like on the low, and we need to
get back up,
focus, and it's been a rough off season. Truly has, and it's just been a rough offseason emotionally for fans, and even if you're not a fan, just people in general who care for those vulnerable populations, because they are vulnerable populations and they were targeted in these horrific ways, and it's just unfortunate. So I want to echo what you said, thoughts, prayers, and I wish and hope everything that the truth comes out, so we can rectify, and not we, but like the appropriate people can rectify this situation, and then we can all like effectively ruminate on it in a positive way. But yeah, so Justus, thanks for joining the pod in Justin's, slacking off somewhere in Hawaii, drinking coconuts and whatnot.
Lazy pizza. No, I'm just...
I know. Unbelievable. Well, why don't you tell the people where they can find you? I know that everyone who's listening to this pod probably knows you, but, do it anyway. Just do it.
Oh, man. Yeah, so Buffalo FAMBase, of course, please go support the YouTube, the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're up to 600 subscribers on YouTube already.
Hey,
so that's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Justice for All now Thursdays at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
and first round bye Fridays at 9 p.m. and Sunday in February, new show. Me and K-Man rebranded, so we have Sunday in February instead of Home Field Advantage. Wednesdays at 9:15 p.m. So, and then also, wow, this is so much to talk about. The Madden cast that I do every week, every Sunday with Jake Jordan at 1 p.m. There's only a couple games left because we did it lined up exactly with when the regular season started. So I think there's 2-3 games left. We'll have one this weekend. I have one next weekend, and then one more. But since the Bills plays Monday, it works out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so follow me on Twitter, JA17MVP, because he will be the MVP, and so I had to get that before anybody else grabbed it. But I want to give a big shout out to man Andrew 2 Chainz, coolest guy in the world. Justin's awesome. Jacob, I love you, my man. Talk to Jacob a lot more now, and we're working together a little bit, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, man, it's great to have you. Y'all are my favorite. But somebody has said that, okay?
Hey, thanks so much, man. All right. But yeah, you can find me on social media by searching up 2 Chainz, like Justus just mentioned. I'm sorry, I keep on mixing those two things up. That's so disrespectful. I'm so
You're
sorry,
fine, bro.
Hey, thanks for joining the pod. And hey, if you're listening, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, review our podcast, join the FAMBase network, be a part of the movement here. We got big things coming, and we appreciate everything. And if you made it this far, as always, we love you. Go Bills, and have a great day.
Go Bills.